His cavalry troops then went in, and you can see cavalry there as they come down the hill. But what we've got is we've actually got an account of a trooper, Bertie Taylor, and it's from him that we're going to hear now.
We got to the top of the rise, and there it stood, red brick showing, Monchy. The snow was laying thick, and I remember at this point the horses collapsed, buckling the swords of their riders. We extended into one long line, the bugle sounded, and we charged. Over open ground, jumping trenches, men swearing, horses squealing, a proper old commotion. The bugle sounded 3 times. We came under quite a lot of a heavy shell fire, and some of the saddles had been emptied. But the horses knew what to do better than we did, and galloping by me goes them rideless horses. Mine, poor devil, had been wounded badly in the coronet, so I pulled up and dismounted to look at him. He looked at me. There was tears in his eyes. Poor devils. They know you know. Another one flying past me, half its guts hanging out. I've never seen anything like that. Well, my horse perked up, so we galloped after the others, the riderless horses still leading the charge. Eventually, I caught up with my officer, Mr. Humphreys, who was riding a few yards ahead when a shell exploded beneath him. His horse and him split like a side of beef hanging up in a butcher's shop. Both horse and rider were killed instantly. Next we got into the village, and the streets were narrow that tiles from the roofs were raining down on us. That's what caused a lot of the injuries. The shell fire was hot, that bugles sounded the regiment back, and we led the riderless horses.
So with that in mind now, what we'll do is we'll return to Monchy itself. If you get to the top of those tracks, that takes us to the entrance to the village. And this is where the infantry then come into their own as well. They start coming across an urban environment. Now, this is a time for an infantryman to put a different hat on. He's crossed open ground under fire. He's now getting stuck in amongst these buildings. This would mean assaulting the streets and going up, clearing house by house, clearing houses, climbing across gardens, going through outbuildings, getting closer and closer up the streets. At this stage, they're also joined here by the men of the Essex yeomanry. And so with that in mind, we'll just have a look at exactly who the Essex yeomanry are involved in. In fact, we've got an account for you first, haven't we? Sorry, by a man of the Royal Fusiliers.
I reached a large house, which was at the entrance to the village, and kicking open the door, went inside. I fired a few rounds down the hall, and then another burst up the stairs. I ran up and entered the main bedroom, which had a huge window right across the room. On a large table with 6 chairs around it was a map covered with small flags. I could smell cigar smoke. I'd obviously just missed the previous occupants who'd cleared out. By now it was daylight, and from the bedroom you could see right back to Arras. My gun crew shouted for me to come down, where I saw Lieutenant Jerome, who said, "We must get forward into the village." And I said, "Have you ever done any street fighting, sir? We won't even get 10 yards. He said, "Well, just try to do your best." I told the lads to follow me, keep close to the walls of the houses, and take shelter in the doorways. I put a new drum of ammo on the gun, and we set off. We hadn't gone far up the street when a dozen or so Germans came running out of a house about 20 yards away. I let them get clear into the street and let them have the whole drum, aiming at their thighs, so that as they fell, the bullets caught them again. Down they all went, and there wasn't another movement out of them.
So it would have been quite difficult then for the infantry clearing these buildings. You see the sort of confusion. At this stage, not many of them had actually gone through what today soldiers would experience in their training. And that's a photograph taken of Monchy in 1918, but gives you some idea of the destruction in the village and what these guys would have actually been witness as they come through.